one group protesting marginalization over the years. And for good reasons, they're very angry. Then there is another group protesting for a totally different reason of entitlement. But I don't want to go into the details. You know which these two groups are. And to me, the groups of entitlement, I don't worry a lot about. The ones I worry about are those who are feeling denied. And so we need to, the Constitution, this was not an idle provision in the Constitution. I was here in Parliament when we enacted the 2010 Constitution. And actually, we even wanted a higher figure. It was, I think, the National Treasury, which now I lead, which pushed this figure to downwards to 0.5% of revenue of the last audited and approved. And this money, even myself, if you go to Hansard or National Assembly, number of times I complained why this money is not being disbursed, and it would be very, very unfair to the people of Kenya that now I sit and lead National Treasury, which continues with the same injustice. And that is why I've actually told my team that for this year's 7.8 billion that is constitutionally guaranteed must be disbursed. And I want to agree with you, Chair. I'm going to sit with my team to look at the more plausible way of releasing the arrears, because these arrears are from 2011. So I will sit with my team and we'll write to the committee to indicate how we are going to settle these arrears. In the meantime, I would agree with you when we get on that, the amendment, the National Treasury would support. I also believe that there is need to bring amendment to extend the period on the sunset of this fund, because it has been mistreated. That is the truth. We have mishandled this fund over the years. So there I agree with you, Chair, and don't even take it that you are being too hard on me. Actually, the truth is that there has been laxity in actualizing this fund. First, even actualizing it, operationalizing it took a while. And then there were some other challenges, which I think the government took advantage of, in my view, previously, to deny the fund money because there were those legal challenges. So where we are today, this government now must correct those historical injustices. The same way this government is correcting the road network in northern Kenya, which has not been there over the years, and no one talks about it. We must also correct this one. Yeah, you talk about, as you see, sometimes I think the media also chooses what to put across. I hope they will put that across, that that region that has been neglected over the years is now seeing opening up. We can't have a country where some regions feel like they don't exist to our country, they don't belong to our country. And I have no apologies, by the way, when I talk about such cases. I've given this example, and I will repeat it 1,000 times, even when it involves people, that it is not right to go to Tana River and see their children being eaten over the years, 62 years into independence, for a breach of 100 million, and yet others, the rest of us, enjoy all the services, and we all pay taxes. Yeah, it's not right. Now, so I've given my commitment. The 7.8, which is the 0.5%, based on the law, based on the Constitution, that one will release. I don't think I will have an excuse again that money was not disbursed for whatever reason. On the arrears, I'm going to sit down with my team, and then we write to the committee with a more plausible suggestion on how we intend to settle the arrears. I know my predecessor did right, but Chair, in fact, even when I was talking about other debts, Chair, I was not trying to downplay this Equalization Fund. I just wanted you, which I know you have appreciated before, and this committee has been supportive, that I wanted just to explain to you the magnitude of the issues that we have. The problem with Kenya is when you become too honest and you have a problem with them. When you deny them information, then you have a problem. So you are doomed to give, you are doomed not to give. And I was giving you an example, Chair, and allow me just to say this, that our universities, 2016 to 2023, we were sending children to private universities. And sending them children and telling them government will pay 80%. 20% will be paid by the student, 80% is government. Have we been doing that? Zero. Go to these private universities from 2016, all those debts now I have on my table. And then you'll say some governments were doing better than this government. But they left, they decided just to kick the can down the road to now where John Mbadi is sitting at the Treasury, and Methodist universities asking me for 4.7 billion, and their properties being auctioned for 2.8 billion. The Ozema University is asking me for 1.4 billion. And many others, I can't even count them. They're all there. Mount Kenya University is asking for billions. Those who are students that didn't go to those universities last year, they went to those universities 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021 without government paying. And many, many others. I don't want to talk about capitation. Yeah? So, no, I said it very well, but someone decided to report it differently. So I didn't want to, again, help them continue misreporting what I said. But the truth, the reality is, if you commit that this is the policy, do it so that you don't push the credit to another administration. It is very unfair. And that is what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm being a bit cautious. So that whatever we put in the budget, we disburse. And whatever we commit to do, we do it. If it is equalization fund, release the money. If it is shareable revenue for 2025-26, and we have said it is 415 billion, there is no reason why I should disburse only 400 billion and then kick 15 billion to the next financial year, and then someone else kicks it to the next. That is what we are trying to avoid at the National Treasury at the moment. If you look at even pensions, all the pension claims that came, the lump sum payment, we made sure we settled them by 30th of June. So that, I think, should be the spirit. And that's why, Chairman, your committee should help me to be realistic in budgeting. But I agree that on equalization fund, it's the injustice that has been carried forward for a very long time. We will correct it. Now, let me just mention or speak to the county headquarters. That is where I will end.
Maybe before then, the timeline, Chair, for submission of the equalization fund repayment schedule.
Here, Honorable Chairperson, the stock of public debt as at the end of April 2025.
The delay in response has invalidated that date. Now you can move it to 30th of June 2025. And just share with us, but at that point in time, we can start, and thereafter we can get an update.
There may be some slight adjustment, but the figure that I have is up to 30th of April.
That's okay.
We can adjust a little, maybe bring it as an adjustment. Honorable Chairperson, the status of public debt was 11.49 trillion, which is 66.9% of GDP as at the end of April. But in present value terms, it's 63.8% of GDP. So I think that clarity also needs to come about. And that was already provided in some table, if you check the table that was provided earlier. Now, the public debt comprises of domestic debt is now higher than the external debt. It has always been higher, but is now slightly higher than it has been in terms of percentages. It is 6.16 trillion in terms of domestic debt. External debt is at 5.33 trillion. External debt, as at the end of April, was composed of, out of that 5.33 trillion, 2.94 trillion is multilateral debt, which accounts for 55.26% of our total external debt. And World Bank alone, which is the single largest multilateral lender to Kenya, is at 1.86 trillion, which is 63% of the multilateral debt. So multilateral debt is the highest at 55%. But you know, multilateral is the cheapest debt. So we need even to have more, higher percentage. In terms of bilateral debts, we have 1.1 trillion as at end of April, which is 21% of the total external debt, of which China alone accounts for 652 billion shillings, or 0.652 trillion, which is 59.45% of bilateral debt. And then we have 1.29 in commercial debt, which is usually the most expensive, making up about 24% of our total external debt, with Eurobonds constituting 970 billion shillings, or 75.57% of the commercial debt. So that is where we are in terms of external debt. Still having quite a bit in external. Actually, our biggest management of our liability is to get less and lesser on commercial debt. Yeah. On domestic front, out of the 6.16 trillion, 5.02 trillion is in treasury bond, which represents 81%. That is that is a long-term bonds, and treasury bills make 0.95 trillion, or 15.3%. But a small amount of about 190 billion is in other domestic debt, and which includes overdraft from Central Bank of Kenya. You know, we have that facility. And of course, there's this IMF funds on lend to government and bank advances. So we don't treat this IMF funds on lend to government as external debt. We treat it as a domestic debt. And then also some bank advances. So those are the amounts that we owe in terms of numbers as at the end of April 2025.
Waziri, did you say you're treating IMF as domestic?
No, there's the facility that we call funds on lend to government. There are funds that ndugu wewe ndio una deal na hiyo. Utamwambia why this is.
Yeah, maybe Director Doro can explain better, but officially the funds were borrowed by CBK, and then they all lent to Kenya, to the government in Kenya shillings.
Okay.
That's what the reason is domestic. But Doro maybe can explain better.
Although you can introduce yourself first, because you are not here when we introduce it, and then you go ahead to explain why that bit is treated as a domestic debt.
When we had turbulences in the external sector, that is balance of payments, imbalances, the IMF led to Kenya through the central bank. Of course, it is a drawdown on the quota Kenya owns in the IMF capital structure. And once it comes to the central bank to support foreign exchange reserves, the shillings equivalent was on lend. Initially, it was 80 billion in total, 80 billion Kenyan shillings, and then it was on lend to government, because at the end of the day, the central bank will have to pay, but central bank did not need to spend the money as an entity. So the money was on lend to the national treasury to support the fiscal requirements, and in Kenya shillings. So the debt owed by treasury to central bank is in Kenya shillings. In our books, it is in Kenya shillings. It is a central bank which have that debt in SDR equivalent in hard currency. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe
Yeah.
there's also some aspect of monetary policy in terms of management
Yeah.
of the market. Now, I know we are running out of time, but I want you to go straight to, for the other issues, we will submit your written submissions as you shared. but I want you to pronounce yourself on record on the issue of equalization fund liability. And before I say that, by the way, Honorable CS, we engaged with the Equalization Fund board through the CEO. And last year we said this committee, which is the primary oversight committee of devolved functions and as well as also Equalization Fund to county government, that we need to get a regular report of implementation of Equalization Fund. The last one we got the last financial year. This year we have one report we've not received from the Equalization Fund board. Implementation report. The last meeting we've had with your officer, the CEO, was a guidance, because we don't want the Equalization Fund to be in theory and that areas compliance plan has not worked as written to us. We've written to you to get to find out Equalization Fund implementation sunset clause is fast approaching. We have Equalization Fund administration bill that is stuck at the National Assembly for 2 years. Fund of equalization in 2024-2025 were not credited to equalization. This becomes an academic exercise when it comes to implementation of equalization fund, and the areas will continue. So can you tell us how Treasury intends to comply with the areas plan in terms of making do with the areas that are pending of 39 billion over the coming years? And your commitment to make sure once appropriated, the fund should be
of Equalization Fund is concerned. And thank you, Chair. Yeah, kindly, Beverly, just give a copy to Waziri that this is a matter this committee had dispensed.
Audit bill. Largely, my team has no problem with that audit bill, and I think the submission is there. The only thing that we may request is that once the Auditor General, because this is largely prepared by the Auditor General, once she makes her submission, you could share her submission with us so that if we have any reaction to them, we would give. So that is so far as the audit bill is concerned. Now, the other one for procurement, we have a request to put across. The Cabinet has approved a complete review and overhaul of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. And we are preparing and going at the moment. We want to even do a robust public participation on that bill, on that law. So we were requesting that this private members bill could be stood over, and the executive brings forward a more comprehensive review of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, if that is agreeable, so that we may end up, there are a lot of changes that have taken place, including e-procurement and all this. We want to capture everything in the law because we feel there are so many gaps. So those are the only the requests that I wanted to put across for the committee to consider. Maybe now I move to address the Equalization Fund. And now, Chair was asked to talk about the status of compliance with the commitment of proposal plan to pay Equalization Fund arrears that was submitted to the Senate through the letter dated. Entitlement to the fund is 80,092,847,94. So it's over 80 billion shillings, which should have gone into this fund, which is calculated based on the provisions of areas that were meant to also be given capacity to meet some basic needs. And actually those needs or those services are spelled out in the Constitution. But Chair, one of the steps that we are taking at the Treasury is to make sure that now what the entitlement, what should go into that fund, goes. And that is why we have provided 7.8 billion for 2025-2026. We had provided 2.7 billion, but that for arrears, which has now been affected again when we negotiated for a higher share of revenue. We had to look for somewhere to get the money. But for this financial year, we are giving commitment that we'll transfer the 7.8 that is supposed to be for this financial year. The problem we have, Chair, is we are dealing with arrears, and these arrears date back to 2011, 2012. And this is not the only case where we are dealing with, I know government is in perpetuity, but Chair, as we deal with the debts that were left behind by the previous governments, we should also be alive to the fact that presently also we have to provide services. And I will tell you that we just discussed about the road sector. I've just mentioned about the share of revenue transferred to counties. And Chair, I will also again mention here that you go to even education sector, the universities. From 2016, we have been sending our children to private universities up to 2023
Now, Honorable,
without paying. And
Honorable,
that debt we have to pay.
Waziri, the intention of the committee.
So, Chair, you also asked me to give a brief on the status of disbursement of funds for the conditional allocation on construction of county headquarters. And there are 3 paragraphs there. The first one is relating to the amounts that were put on disbursement of funds for county headquarters in financial year 2023-2024, sorry. So in that year, the national government allocated 454 billion shillings, which was contained in the County Government Additional Allocations Act 2024 for that financial year. The State Department for Public Works reported total actual transfers of additional allocations to the beneficiary county governments in the financial year 23-24 by the State Department amounting to only 115.599 million, leaving a balance of 338.4 million. So that balance was not disbursed. Then in the following year, 24-25, that has just ended, that year, 445 million was allocated to finance the construction of the county headquarters as contained in the SIGA for financial year 24-25. However, following the rejection of the 2024 finance bill and the subsequent rationalization of the national budget, in the same year, the fiscal space could not accommodate the allocation, and as such, no funds were disbursed for construction of the headquarters in that financial year. 0, because it was reallocated after that. Now, this year, 2025-26, 454 million shillings, you know, I've been talking billions until now, everything is billion, but this one is 454 million shillings, has been allocated towards the construction of county and is included in the County Government Additional Allocations Bill 2025 for financial year 25-26 and budgeted for under the State Department of Public Works. Then the National Treasury undertakes to disburse the funds once the bill is enacted. I don't know when the bill will be enacted, Chair. I think it has not been enacted yet. I think it's with
the Senate has passed it. It's at the National Assembly now.
Yes.
Hopefully it will be done soon.
The moment the bill is passed, I have shared with Bernard Ndungu here, who is our Director General Accounting Services, that he should ask the counties to requisition this exchequer so that we release it immediately. I don't want any more story on this county headquarters. We will disburse the money immediately to the county headquarters, at least for this 25-26. Then we will discuss with them on whatever needs to be disbursed going forward to complete those headquarters. I mean, when a project is started, it should be completed in time, really. We have those eyesores across the country, and I don't think it's right. So, Chair, I wanted to end there, and I don't know whether you'll give me another time to thank you, but I just thank you. Yes. Yeah, unless there's something that requires my reaction. Uh, yeah, I would be grateful. So thank you, Chair, for giving us a hearing. And I want to again give my commitment that I will be cooperating and working very closely with this committee in terms of accountability and even in terms of legislation where you require the input of National Treasury. You have clearly expressed that there have been delays in the submission of our responses. We are going to work on that. That is going to be corrected. And yes, Chair, there is a lot that we are doing right. Chair, can I just say that this is not politics. You're the one who mentioned that at times there are a lot of good things that get missed out. But I will tell you, Chair, I was in London a while back. And much as some in this country, we don't believe that this country is making some steps, especially in the economic front. Other people do. I sat next to a former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And actually, it was between me and Mr. Orama, the president of Afreximbank. When I sat, I shook his hand and we did introduction. And when I told him I'm the Minister for Finance from this country, the first thing he did was shaking my hand and telling me, congratulations. How come you have done what you have been able to do? You know, I was hesitant because I thought we still have a lot to do. And he was telling me, you know, you guys, we were rated in 2021 as 6 countries that were going to default by IMF in loan payment. And Ghana has defaulted, Ethiopia has defaulted, Zambia has defaulted, Angola has defaulted, Chad has defaulted. 5 out of 6. It's only Kenya which has not. And he said, even the way you have been dealing with G2G, this G2G on fuel, we need to learn a lot from you people. That is from someone who is out there and seeing us. And then he mentioned, and you have now moved from number 8 economy in Africa to number 6. Now, when you come back here home, the story is different. But I know why the story is different because the Kenyans keep on telling us we don't eat GDP. And we are working so that they can have something to eat because truly they can't eat GDP. But GDP can help them eat better. So we just need to make GDP work for Kenyans so that they can eat. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Karibu sana Waziri. Being criticized does not mean you're not performing. Ultimately, you will be proven right. I speak about the realistic budgeting and planning in many forums. You may not have visibility of them, but when you discuss, let's adjust, we support. Because this reality, even when you, present some data, it might not be 100%, but it will be above 80% accurate. You understand, which is very positive. So don't fear criticism. We have, the government has a country to run, and the government also must manage politics. Accept whatever politics that will happen. You do what you believe is right to steer the country forward. Being pronounced by IMF as the 6th, best performing economy is not a mean feat, and those are yardsticks that globally comparable. Other issues that money in the pocket of Mwananchi is political statement. Money in the pocket of Mwananchi will happen after a lot of other processes have been accomplished. And maybe the real performance of this government will be felt, in a year or 2 or 3 years down the line. Otherwise, mimi nataka kusema karibu. We only engage with National Treasury primarily as Committee of Finance of Budget of the Senate. Whatever we shared with you is just for us to do our jobs, both yours and ours, faster. And please do your best. And the issues that we said you can add in written submission, you do that within the next 2 weeks. And please write to us also quickly on the request to stand down the, amendments that, and Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. Otherwise, asante sana, karibuni sana. You can go do your bit in terms of the country and the treasury. Asante.